Dylan Edwards announced that he is going to enter the transfer portal on Friday, and I've been meaning to get to this and look at some landing spots for the former Kansas State star running back. Now, before we do that, Dylan Edwards is an explosive playmaker, and this year was supposed to be a really good year for him. The combination of Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards was supposed to give Kansas State a dynamic duo in their backfield, and that just hasn't been the case, unfortunately. Now, that being said, if he can stay healthy, he is one of the more exciting players that you can get in the transfer portal. The problem is that this year injuries were a problem. Literally the first play of the year against Iowa State, he gets hurt and misses the entire Iowa State game. You have a guy who is going to be explosive when he's healthy, but if he's not healthy, that's where things get a little bit concerning. So whoever's going to get him, if they can find a training plan that deals with those, addresses those things right off the bat, then they'll be in good hands. The big question is just going to be, do they have the ability to potentially do that? Now, I wrote an article for PFSN about 5 potential landing spots, and we'll talk about a few more after that as well. So we'll dive right into that. First one is going to be Notre Dame. At one point, Dylan Edwards was a Notre Dame commit, and it feels like a natural fit based off of that. You look at what Notre Dame could potentially be losing after this year. You have Jeremiah Love, who's all but gone at this point. Going to the NFL, he's explosive, athletic, has the tools to be an NFL back. He's all but gone. Jadarian Price is the question mark. And even if Jadarian Price does come back, you still need another running back to help him out. Now, fortunately, Notre Dame is pretty good in terms of talent. But if you can get a talent like Dylan Edwards, who's more proven than maybe some of your unknown commodities, then maybe Marcus Freeman will look to add someone via the portal. And at one point, he was committed. So maybe that's a connection that you can rekindle and make happen. We'll see with that. But that's an offense that's going to be exciting in 2026. CJ Carr looks like he is going to take some big strides in the offseason after getting a full year of experience. And adding Dylan Edwards gives you not only a good running back, but another threat in the passing attack that could be really fun to watch. Number 2 is going to be the Memphis Tigers. Memphis is not a team that I think a lot of people are going to put on this list when it comes to Dylan Edwards, but I do like what Memphis is doing. And here's the thing. Dylan Edwards has the talent, right? There's no question about his abilities when he's healthy. My biggest concern for him in the portal is, are teams going to bet on that, or are they going to have concerns that he's not going to stay healthy? And if they have concerns about that, that opens him up to a group of 5 team route. That opens him up to a potential landing spot like Memphis. Now, Sutton Smith is going to be gone, and this is an offense that's going to be very exciting. Some of this also kind of depends on the coaching staff. Is Ryan Silverfield going to be the head coach of Memphis, or is he going to get promoted? As of right now, it looks like he's in a good position to potentially make a run at one of those jobs. So that's a big question. But if he stays, the staff that's there is going to be good for Dylan Edwards. And if you look at what the running backs have done this year, you've seen explosive plays. Now, you also have a couple of young quarterbacks that should be able to make some exciting plays happen as well. So you give him a solid group to work with. I think that they'll be just fine. Also, the NIL money is going to be there. And I'm not going to dive into that because that's just kind of boring, honestly. The money will do whatever it needs to do. But this is a team that could be in the running. They have everything that they need as long as the coaching staff is in place. Next, I'm going with Oklahoma. Oklahoma needs a running back in a bad way. They need a difference maker at running back. Xavier Robinson has been all right so far, but John Mateer, who's most likely coming back next year, is going to need a partner in the backfield. And if you get the right partner with John Mateer, this offense goes to a completely different level. And speaking of familiarity, we talked about that with Notre Dame. Dylan Edwards is very familiar with Oklahoma. Brent Venables and running backs coach DeMarco Murray recruited him. They were trying to get him to come to Oklahoma, and this is going to be another one that it could just be a natural fit. He could just be comfortable where with this coaching staff. And Ben Arbuckle's running the show. It's clear that he has the creative and offensive mind to make things explosive at Oklahoma. You add an explosive weapon like a Dylan Edwards, then you're in business more so than you were last year or this past year. Next is going to be Washington. I assume that Jonah Coleman is going pro. They're going to be without him. There are some options behind Jonah Coleman, but Dylan Edwards is a guy that gives this team, I think, an explosive weapon next to Damon Williams. And I think Damon Williams could be a Heisman Trophy candidate next year with the right talent around him. Jedd Fisch, I think, is currently being linked to multiple job openings, so that's also a question. But I do like what this team can do. Jimmy Doherty, the offensive coordinator there, knows how to get his playmakers the football. He's proven that time and time again. Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston have all shined at times because Doherty knows what he's doing in terms of play calling. You give him a talent like Dylan Edwards, and there's no question that this team is going to succeed. The sky's the limit as long as he stays on the field. And you kind of have that undersized combination of the backfield. That's a marketable thing that your social media teams will hype up and be able to utilize in terms of growing excitement for this team. Dylan Edwards and Damon Williams both are considered undersized, but also at the same time, they're explosive. They're going to be able to make plays. And that's a really exciting thing if you are Washington looking for playmakers next year. The final one that I had listed was TCU. The reason why I say TCU is, well, there's a couple of reasons. The first one, if you remember Dylan Edwards' first collegiate game way back in 2023, it was against TCU when he was at Colorado. This kid still, I think, gives Sonny Dykes nightmares. 159 total yards, 4 total touchdowns. And most of the damage he did was through the air, which once again proves that he is a threat on the ground and through the air. Now, the big question for TCU is going to be, is Josh Hoover coming back? We already know that they had to deal with the transfer portal and him getting courted to go elsewhere, but also he might go pro. I don't necessarily know if that's the right move for him, but everybody's got their own thing to worry about. I wouldn't blame him if he wants to. If he comes back next year, he's going to need something better at running back. This group is 108th in rushing. That's not going to get the job done. Now, injuries have played a role in that. Convorian Barnes has been hurt. Jeremy Payne's been hurt. So maybe you're not going to go with another guy that struggles with injuries, but you do have a guy who can single-handedly fix their concerns in the rushing attack. To be able to get a guy like this that opens up the offense is huge. Now, the other thing is, it depends on the wide receiver position, right? Who's coming back, who's going pro, that's another part of it. But Dylan Edwards gives you a factor in both the rushing attack and the passing attack as well. So there are plenty of options for Dylan Edwards. Plenty of teams that he could go to. And he's probably going to have plenty of teams that want him. Now, in terms of other teams that could potentially go after him, maybe a team like Texas is not happy with how things ended up. Maybe they are ready to move on depending on what they have coming back. Now, they have a ton of talent, so that's my biggest concern for Texas. Are they going to want a Dylan Edwards, regardless of what happens with CJ Baxter, Quintrevion Wisner? Maybe they're going to want a player like that, but also maybe not. Now, people are also saying he could go back to Colorado. That makes sense. I also really like Houston as a potential destination, though Houston has multiple young running backs. I just like the idea of putting an explosive player next to incoming 5-star commit Keyshawn Henderson. That's always going to be exciting. There are a number of places that he could go, and these are just some of them. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think as potential landing spots. You look at who's going to be interested in him, he'll have plenty of options. There will be plenty of teams that will need a running back of his caliber. Again, whether or not they like the injury part of it and they can move on from that or not could also dictate, is he looking at power 4 jobs or is he looking at group of 5 jobs? Either way, I like him regardless of where he ends up. Then you also put in the coaching carousel, how all that stuff ends up. We'll see. I don't necessarily know if he's going to commit to a team that has a coach that maybe is looking to move on. That's another factor as well. But overall, Dylan Edwards has lots of options. He's going to be a very attractive player for a lot of programs. It's just going to come down to who's the right fit, who can keep him healthy, and how can he fit in their offense to make the biggest impact.